All right. Good morning, everyone. Today is the 14th of March, and this is our COM 723 Master's Degree Students Presentation Day. We'll be starting with Group 2, then going to Group 3, and then finishing off with Group 1. First of all, I'd like to welcome our experts. Thank you very, very much, Jenny, who is from Experience UX in Bournemouth, and Abby is with Spirosoft in also, but there's an international company. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you've got a branch there
In Bournemouth.
in Bournemouth, okay? And so we have our two face-to-face experts on the panel that will be asking some questions. And then we have Dr. Mike Howarth, who is our virtual panel member that is a former BBC producer. And you can see him on the screen there now. And of course, Louise and I are the academic representatives. We'll be doing the assessment marking, but we'll leave, I think, most of the questions to the experts on the panel. We have a 20-minute maximum for the actual talk, which time I can give you a 2-minute warning. I can say, 2 minutes left, so that you kind of if you find yourself in a position, where you're still have lots of information, you need to speed it up or make sure you get your conclusions in at the end. We, as usual, with our ethics and data protection, we're doing the recording with your permission, and we'll have these recordings available for the other students to see the presentations as well. So we're ready to begin, and let's see, it's 22. 42 is when you finish, and 40 is when I give the warning. You ready? So group 1, go ahead, you may begin.
All right. Morning to my honorable panel and my fellow UX consultants from the other group. My name is Natalie Godikwe. I am from Group 2, and this beautiful morning we'll be presenting our case study on the Oxford Medical Simulation Analysis. So these are my consultants.
My name is Amanda.
And I'm Ronnie Karemba. And together we are Group 2 of the UX and usability presentation. So this is our outline. We start from the introduction, smart objectives, market research, endpoint justification, up until the conclusion and the references. So for our introduction, in healthcare, patient monitoring is a crucial aspect of ensuring quality care, and nurses at large, they play a critical role in this aspect by taking timely action based on vital signs displayed on the screen. However, there are cases where nurses face challenges in constantly monitoring patient vital signs. And this case study that we worked on, it aims to analyze a medical simulation where nurses are not able to see a patient's vital signs constantly on the screen, and to also provide solutions to address this particular pain point. So for our smart objective, while we're working together as a group, we knew that our objective needed to be specific, measurable, achievable, reliable, and also time-bound. And that was how we came about these objectives. So the first objective is to analyze the impact of the inability to constantly monitor patient vital signs through market research and data collection. And the time frame for this was the first 3 weeks. For the next objective was to create user personas for different types of potential users of the medical simulation. This was done within the first 4 weeks. Design and prototype a solution that enables nurses to constantly monitor patient vital signs. So it's done within the first 7 weeks. And then lastly, to test and prototype with nurses and also gather their feedback to find the solutions. And this was also done within 7 months. Now, over to the market research. I'll be handing over to Ms. Amanda to talk about.
Thank you. So before we get deep into the projects, we conducted some market research. So it provides us significant information about the business we're getting into, and especially from analyzing our competitors. We conducted research on other medical simulation available on the market. And for this presentation today, we selected 2 of them that we analyzed. And I got to present the OMS simulation, which we are working on actually, just so you have the general overview insights of how it is presented. And now we're getting into our competitors part. We have the first one, Shadow Health. Yes. The main attractive features that we got is that they present a menu bar right on the right side, which is really helpful for any nurses to get all the information just before their head, the eyes. And the electronic health record. You can also see note that they have the dialog bar just right here in real-time period. And just afterwards, we have the nurse simulation. They also have a menu bar, which we cannot see here, sorry. And the storage for tools and the close-up view. It's really interactive afterwards. And besides educational content with detailed activities and a report at the end just to give feedback to what the client did and what they did right and did wrong. So what we can conclude from these 2 competitors, we selected them for a particular reason. But first of all, the Shadow Health simulation have a very detailed electronic record of each patient in different situations. And for the nursing simulation, we got the opportunity to get a closer view of the patient so as to analyze his reaction, how it's behaving. They are behaving. But although they have this really useful and attractive features, none of them are showing any vital signs, which is also important to take account.
Thank you very much, Amanda, for that presentation. So this leads us to our pinpoint justification. Based on the market research that was conducted, we were able to identify the vital signs not being constantly displayed as an issue. And it was identified through the feedback from the nurses who participated in the medical simulation during our sessions. And in addition to that, nurses also reported that they found it challenging to monitor patient vitals because it was not constantly displayed on the screen. So this feedback was also confirmed from us, the UX consultants, because we also shared a similar pain points as well as them. So now, if you look at this particular screenshot, this screenshot was gotten from the text chats from one of our sessions. And by the way, we took into consideration the ethical considerations whereby we told the nurses that we would make their responses anonymous. So if you look, we've grayed out the names of the people who actually made these comments. We just left their initials. So on the 7th of February, as at 10:43 a.m., a particular nurse said the vital signs need to be on screen constantly. Also on that same day at 10:41, another person, if you look at number 2, where a particular nurse says having to look at the observations maybe on screen at all times once commences action. And finally, if on the 31st of January as well as at 11:04 a.m., another nurse, if you look at the bad aspects for number 1, I would like the vital signs to be on the bottom screen of the page so I can see them, but I know that wouldn't be realistic. So, and also there's also another comment that pertains to what we're saying. So all of these details and all of these data collected led us to the pain points justification. And as well, we have a link. This actually links to the text chat. So if I'm not going to click on it, but if you click on it, click it directly to where we got this information from. So now this is our Gantt chart. Our Gantt chart illustrates the project schedule right from week 1 up till this present day, where we had a couple of tasks that needed to be completed across the 8-week span. I'm going to hand over to Samantha once again to explain the rich picture.
So in addition to the Gantt chart, we also realized the rich picture, which you can see here. We just divided it into 6 sections: research part, hypothesis, define, ideate, prototype, test, and conclusion. So it's just to get a big picture of what we are doing and what is the to get the understanding of our current situations. It's like a mind map, but with images.
All right, so thank you very much, Amanda. Moving on to the data collection. So for the data collection, we had a total sample size of 25 nurses, and out of the 25 nurses, 8 were assigned to our group. And in order to get feedback and data from the nurses, we had to deploy several methods, such as using a Teams form for our online surveys. So this leads us to the data protection. So we tested it. So survey aimed to test and collect feedback from the nurses as part of a usability study to determine the effectiveness of our solution, our pain point, which is the constant display of the vital signs. And during the data collection, we took into considerations guidelines such as the GDPR and the Solent Research Integrity Guidelines, which we will share the link much later in the presentation. And we also maintained anonymity while collecting the data gotten from the nurse, just like how we displayed in the text charts where their names were not shown. Now, we used a mixed method approach, which was the quantitative and quantitative data while trying to get the data. So we gathered the quantitative data through open-ended questions where we asked them what their feedback is on certain aspects of prototype and then the observation by the simulation. For the qualitative data, we gathered that through pie charts that were provided within the online survey, especially for responses that required numerical quantification. So once again, total number of participants, 8. So I'm moving on to the infographics of the feedback that we got. So on the left here, we have the total of the responsive and unresponsive participants. 75% of the participants were responsive, while 25% of them were not responsive. For the age range, we had 3 major age ranges. There's 3% of them were between the ages of 22 to 25, 17% were between the ages of 31 to 35, and then half of that sample were above 35. So when we asked the nurses how many of them had prior experience with virtual simulators, 100% of them said no prior experience, and that's why we have this particular color as orange. So when we also asked if it was necessary to display vital signs constantly, 100% of them agreed. That's why we have just one color here. When we asked how useful the constant display of the vital signs was within the prototype, 100% of them also found it useful, right? They all agreed that it was very beneficial. Now, when we now asked about what they would like to change about the prototype design, 17% of them mentioned something design related, another 17 mentioned vital signs placement, and then none of them actually made mention of the color. So that's why we have 0%. And then for others, we have 66%. So for these others, this were comments surrounding adding more information to the vital signs and other things that we did not initially ask. So that's why it has like a larger portion of the pie chart. So when we asked about the best position for the patient's vital signs to be displayed, 17% said next to the patient. So another 17% said top left. 33% of them said top right, and then another 22% said bottom right. So seeing as top right and bottom right had the largest portion of the responses, we decided to put it at the bottom right. So we still went ahead with the one with the most percentage. And also when we asked what additional information they would like to see within the vital signs, it's 3% of them said the existing data was adequate and we did not need to add further information, while 17% said we needed to add additional patient data, but we went with the larger sample set. Now, this brings us to the user personas that we got from the survey. So we have two personas. One is the general one, which refers to the OMS platform at large as a nurse. So if you read this particular persona from her bio, she's a 32-year-old nurse who has over 7 years of experience and her goals is to further her career and improve her patient skills, and she's eager to learn about new medical procedures and technologies. And her needs are to have an accessible way to learn about new medical procedures. So this is the persona of someone who wants to learn about the medical simulation, but it's not aimed at our pain point, which is the constant display of the vital signs. And that was how we came about the second pain point. So actually, on the other hand, she's a driven and ambitious nursing student who seeks an immersive learning experience through a medical simulator. Her goal is to become a skilled nurse by learning and practicing patient care. And she also wants to improve her ability to interpret and monitor patient vital signs. Her needs to constant access to patient vital signs such as heart rate, temperature, blood pressure, to monitor their condition, access to a variety of scenarios and medical emergencies, to develop critical thinking, an opportunity to practice these procedures in a safe and controlled environment. For our frustrations, you would see that the inability to build patient vital constantly, limited access to different patient scenarios, and not being able to apply what she has learned in real life situations. And the devices she commonly uses are the laptop and desktop. So if you take a look at this particular pain point, there's a difference between the first one and the second one. This one is more focused on our pain point, which is the constant display of the vitals, while the other one speaks more to the OMS platform at large. Now we move on to the user journey and empathy mapping. So we took a user-centered approach where we created a customer journey and an empathy map to understand the needs of the nurses. And we also gathered feedback from the nurses on the features that they would like to see the solution that addresses that pain point. This is our customer journey. The customer journey takes on awareness, pain point identification, training, patient monitoring, diagnosis, and treatment. I'm just going to quickly skim through it. So the nurses become aware through the medical simulation. So the nurses become aware of the simulation and its capability for monitoring patient vitals. Then for the identification, they identify the need for constant monitoring of the patient's vitals. And then for training, they undergo training on how to operate the medical simulator. Patient monitoring, they begin monitoring the patient vitals using the medical simulator. And then lastly, for diagnosis and treatment, if the simulator detects abnormalities, they diagnose the problem and initiates appropriate treatment. Now, this is the empathy mapping. It covers what the nurses are saying, thinking, feeling, and doing. So for, say, they mentioned the inability to constantly monitor the vital signs, which we've already covered. They thought the vital signs being displayed constantly would be an improvement. And for feeling, they felt that the positioning of the proposed vital signs should be dynamic. And then for doing, they completed an online survey, which we have already spoken about. Now, moving on to the wireframes and the high fidelity. So now, this is the screenshot of the wireframe. As you can see, the design, this is our design here, is appended to the bottom right, still in grayscale, and then this is the one that's been expanded. So this is the high fidelity screen where we have the design fixed to the bottom right while the simulation is going on, and then this is what it looks like when that's been expanded, so the person using it can see the vital signs properly. And these were the individual components that were used during the prototype, during the design. So if you notice, we have two different colors. That was because we had two different iterations. One where we had different colors for each vital sign, and then one where we had single color. So I would pause down to show you what our prototype looks like. So this is our prototype. So there's no sound there because we just wanted to focus primarily on the. So if I click on this, you'll see that the simulation is running in the background. And as you can see in this particular shot, the vital signs for the monitor is not being displayed, but we're still able to see that the bottom right, the pulse has been fixed, and then you know, can always see what's going on despite the medication or whatever it is that might be applied. So if I were to hover on this, you would see click to expand. So once I click to expand, now I can see the vital signs displayed legibly. And then once I close it, it goes back to the. So yeah, it has like minimal to no distraction at all to what's going on, because in a situation where I just want to see the vital signs, I just do this and then I close it, and then the simulation continues in the background, as you can see here. So I will pause that and go back to my presentation. Right. So these are the components, and so now onto the UX principles. While coming up with the design, there are a couple of principles that we had in mind, and then the most prominent ones were Miller's law and the aesthetic usability effect. Now, for Miller's law, it states that the average person can only keep 7 plus or minus items in their working memory. So if you go back to this, you notice that we have just 5 vital signs displayed. We decided not to overpopulate it so that they will be able to see the to be able to understand the vital signs properly. And now for the second one, which states that users often perceive aesthetically pleasing design as design that is more usable. So now if you go back, you see that we have one that is just one color, which is blue, and another that has different colors. So we figured that if we were to use different colors for each vital sign, to be easier for nurses to understand. So in a simulation environment, if they want to look at the pulse, for example, they know that, okay, pulse green. As soon as I look at the color green, I'm looking at the pulse. If I'm looking at, okay, yeah. So that's basically how we came about these 2 particular UX principles. And for this section, I will be inviting Mr. Ronald to take our choice of software.
Thank you very much. And due to the magnitude of this task, we had to really add the use of quite a few types of tools. Some of these include Figma, which is a powerful design tool that fosters collaboration among users. And the most important thing about Figma is it allows for simultaneous collaboration when working on a project. Another tool we used was Adobe Illustrator, which we used to create the initial rich pictures, which were transferred to and finalized in Figma. Also Teams, we use Teams to communicate with the clients. The form we use for the survey was designed in Google Forms, which was also posted on Teams. The final output, we brought everything in together and prepared it in PowerPoint.
Thank you very much. And for our conclusion, we concluded that the inability of nurses to constantly see patient vital signs is a pain point that can have serious implications to patient care. And through market research, data analysis, and adopting several UX design principles, we were able to develop a solution that addresses these pain points. And our prototype was tested with the nurses, and their feedback was used to refine the design. These are our references. Thank you.
Well done, well done. I'm impressed.
Yeah.
Well, I think we'll pass it over to our experts now for questions. Mike, if you want to put your video back on this phase of the presentation, we'll start with our face-to-face experts. You know, in no particular order. We'll say about 10 minutes or so for questions. And then also, if any of the audience has questions, we'll open that up for anyone in the audience as well. All right, so we'll pass that over to Abby and Jenny. Yeah.
Sure, I can go first. I've got a few things I was just thinking about as you're going through it. Brilliant, by the way. Excellent. Really loved the idea and loved the process you went through. It was really sound and great to see, which was wonderful. I noticed one of the things that you picked up on the survey was that the nurses you were talking to had no experience with these simulators before. I was just curious if you think that would have had any impact on their feedback and how they experience simulators.
Yeah, so fortunately enough, we were able to have a general team session where there was a simulation going on. I think it was Dr. Anthony that did that, and then they were able to actually have, like, the second-hand experience, seeing as they saw someone actually operate the simulator, so they kind of had an idea. So by the time we were already asking the question, when we posed the question as to if they had any prior experience, they had already seen what a simulator looks like. We were just asking for their own personal experience if they had one. So yeah.
And that pain point you identified, were you able to observe that through the simulation, through animals
Yes.
as well, to see they were struggling
Yeah,
with that?
funny enough, like I identified it, and then Amanda also told me that we nurses were also saying the exact same thing in the text chat, and I'm like, okay, this is brilliant. Seeing as we already have like common ground, might as well just call you on this particular pain point and expand on it.
I just want to say that we realized twice the realization with the OMS simulation with the nursing students, and we got the same feedback both in both.
Do you want to jump in?
Yeah, sure. I think mine's more around like the process of how you kind of get to your conclusion things. How did you find like working together as a team? Did you have like a process in mind, or were you led by kind of what the users were saying? Just like interested in hearing more about that, please.
Okay, so once again, like seeing as we identified the pain point early enough, that gave us enough time to work on our process, our design process. So once we're able to identify like the small objectives that we listed here, things we're just able to kick things off by coming up with the online survey, and also we had help from Dr. Anthony in terms of how to go about the whole process, and then getting user feedback, and then testing, iterating, adopting principles, ethical considerations, and all of that.
And did you find that any parts of the did you find all parts of the process helpful, or were there some bits that you
Definitely.
thought?
Yeah, like I learned along the way how to create some tools like the rich picture. I had fun to do that, so it is really helpful.
Yeah, but I mean, on a personal note, I actually really learned how to use PowerPoint again.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Mike, at home, do you want to pop on your video and microphone and have any questions for our presenters? Let's see. Is he still with us? I thought I saw him before. Uh-oh, looks like we may have lost the connection. I don't see his name. Do you? Okay. All right. In that case, Louise, is there anything that you want to throw into the mix, or?
I really like the prototype. I think it's really strong. The whole presentation was really strong. I did have a question, but it's just gone now. But yeah, I think the prototype has really improved, and I think you've taken the user journey really well. I actually really liked your user journey graph that you had, like the infographic. Yeah, that one really good. Really like that. So yeah, there's some really strong things. Pie charts are brilliant as well. Well done.
All right, and we'll throw it out to the audience if anyone in the audience has anything. No, oh, they're being nice to you, see, because then then you'll come back and ask them hard questions. All right. I mean, for me, again, you know, and I thought it was pretty thorough presentation. You know, it seems like you know, you've hit you know, a lot of the major elements in terms of the module learning outcomes, which I know you guys aren't so concerned with it from an academic point of view, but you know, looking at it from a professional point of view. So my final question is lessons learned. Okay. And it can be technical, it can be UX, it can be teamwork, anything like that. If you were going to do this all over again, which is in the way we are, because we've got the second half of the semester with the other two pain points, what would you do differently? What do you think you'd do differently? Let's throw that to Ronnie.
What would I do differently?
Yeah. What do you think? Like like as a lesson learned, like maybe there was some part of this whole process that you didn't quite match your expectation. And if you're going to do it, do it again, which we have to do for the last part of the semester, how might you change that whole process that you've gone through?
Off the top of my head, I think it worked pretty well. I can't think of anything that I'll change.
Okay, that's a fair enough answer. How about you guys? Anything?
For me, I would say always stick to a design process because it really helps, especially at the end. Because from the initial stages, if you do not have a plan, if you don't have an objective, you most likely find yourself just going with the flow. But if you have like a
So it's more of the project management side of it is what you felt was the takeaway. All right, that's interesting. How about you?
It's important. I really like the communication and everything with well and smooth.
So like the teamwork element of it. Okay, and
We just get along naturally.
no, that's important though. That's especially if you're in a larger organization like
Well, it's kind of like a question leading on from that. So how did you guys communicate as a team? Like how did you check in what you were working on, etc.?
primarily via Teams. And also we have this particular PowerPoint presentation online, so anyone could just, import their feedback, and then once any other person comes on, like they say, okay, also so one person has done this, and then we can just have a quick chat about, okay, I saw you made a certain change. What was the idea behind it? How best can we refine it and all of that? So everything was basically online.
okay, well done. That's it, I think, for me. Okay. All right, I'm going to stop the recording at this point. And we'll let the group number 3, I believe,